Huyu yukila, huyu yukila, huyu yukila, huyu yukila. Hinje mahino, heyo yukila, heyo yukila. Heyo yuhuwa, heyo yukila, heyo yukila, heyo yukila. Lile mahino, heyo yukila, heyo yukila, huha.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Help support this bell removal. My prayer today is for all of us to be safe when we go out on this little walk in the bell removal. Creator, thank you for this day. Thank you for our lives. Creator, thank you for this blessing of this beautiful day and for all these people who are here to help support our tribe, the Amamutsun. Creator, be with us today as we go on this walk and this event of removing the bell. It has a great significance for our people, actually people of all the land. Creator, we thank you for just blessing us and being with us and giving us the strength to carry on. Creator, bless all the people that are here, keep them safe, bless their families. Be with the people who are still traveling here. Keep them all safe. To our families, to all creation. Creator, thank you for everything. Ho. So Val will be coming up. He has a quick announcement. Thank you.
Thank you for that prayer, Nora. I just have a quick announcement. I'll be speaking in just a little bit, but we wanted to give a little background first, and then Member Veronica Martinez will do that. What I wanted to announce was that many of you had heard that that bow was torn down last night. Somebody took a hacksaw out there and hacked it off. I want to first announce that it was not me. But that does not change today. There's still hundreds of mission bells out there that represent the same lies, the same destruction and domination, that represent the loss of indigenous cultures, indigenous peoples, and indigenous tribes. That message does not change. We will continue. We will pray today. We will pray for all tribes. We will pray for all non-tribal people. We will pray for the indigenous peoples of California, of our ancestors, of our current members, of our future descendants. Today is a day for prayer, a day for looking into ourselves, seeing how we can understand the truth, and finding ways to deal with that truth. So we'll talk more in a little bit. But for now, I'd like to call Veronica up. Thank you.
Hello. How are we feeling today? Good? Good. It's wonderful to see all your faces out here. It's wonderful to be here on this beautiful day. As Val said, my name is Veronica Martinez. And I am an instructor at Chabot College. Chabot's on Muwekma territory, also called Hayward. I'm also one of the coordinators of the Indigenous Peoples Education Association there. I'm also an enrolled member of the Amamutsun tribe, and we are the hosts of the event today. And on behalf of our tribe, I would love to welcome each of you to our event today, to this bell removal ceremony, and as Val said, in the spirit of what we intended to do. So thank you so much for being here. We welcome you. We're pleased, we're grateful, and we have an amazing agenda for you today. So, yeah. So we have a few logistics first. One of the things is if you see an elder who needs a seat, if you could make sure that our elders are taken care of and offer your seat, that would be beautiful. Thank you so much. A couple of other logistics are that we do have masks if you need them. I see a lot of you are wearing them, which is wonderful. If you could keep wearing them as an audience member, that we would appreciate that. We're in close proximity. It can still help. And again, if you need one, I believe there are some back at the tents. If we also have some snacks, some water, and some snacks, please stay hydrated. And if you need the restrooms, they are down at the school. And if you need direction, they can also help you at the tent. I notice some of you are standing, and you can go ahead and be seated at this point, because we're going to start transitioning into a list of speakers. But again, if you see elders who need a seat, if you could offer your seat, that would be wonderful. All right, so that was just some logistics there. Please wear your mask, snacks and water are provided, stay hydrated. Speaking of logistics, there are so many people who made today happen. The Amamutsun tribal members, the community, yes, yay. Wonderful community volunteers and community organizations all stepped up to make today happen. They worked long hours and had a lot of conversation behind the scenes. Also, the Santa Cruz Parks and Rec Department, as well as the Santa Cruz Civic Auditorium. So we extend our deepest gratitude to everybody who made today happen. So again, wonderful. Thank you so much. There are basically three components to this day. First, we have an amazing lineup of speakers for you, about 20 incredible speakers that you're going to hear in the first couple of hours. And then the second thing is the walk, and we'll tell you more about that when we get there, the walk to the previous location of the bell. And then the ceremony itself. And again, we'll tell you more as we get there. Another thing about logistics. In terms of pictures and video, feel free to take pictures while speakers are up here. Feel free to post them, share them. It's a wonderful thing to share. But when we transition into ceremony, it's always a different story. So you'll hear more updates as we get to prayers and song. Just keep that in mind, that speakers, yes, video, pictures, feel free to share, but when it comes to ceremony, that is something that is for the people who are present and not necessarily to be shared outside of that moment. So we'll give you more updates, thank you, as we get to the ceremony. So as many of us know, a lot of us live in two worlds. There's the world that existed for tens of thousands of years, right? And then the new one that is written in the history books. And those two worlds they're not often compatible, but today we get a little closer. Today we get a little closer to the truth by this bell removal ceremony. And so I suggest we look at this as a day of healing. And with that in mind, I have a couple of things for you to sort of keep in mind as you listen to our amazing lineup of speakers today. The first thing I'd like you to think about is this beautiful opportunity to be fully present in the moment together. So if you can kind of put away your distractions, right? Turn off the cell phone maybe, and just sort of be really in the moment today, that would be wonderful. Share the space with love and social distance if we can, but I know it's we'll do the best we can, right? And we have masks as well. If you do take pictures, going back to the pictures and video, there are 2 media liaisons to help us today. And so if you could give them your contact information or your business card, I believe their names are Nancy and Allie. Are they available, Nancy or Allie? I don't see a hand. But I will help you find Nancy or Allie at where we go? There we go. There's a hand. So if you could give them your business card or contact information, that way we can have access to your stuff. That would be wonderful. Okay? All right, so that's another note about pictures and video. In terms of other things to remember while you're watching our speakers today is remember that we are here because of and for our ancestors. And so I suggest that you keep in mind the lineage you feel connected to. Think about your lineage and keep that in your heart as you listen to the speakers today. And finally, think about the land that's underneath your feet right now. As you take an inhale, just let the energy of this land sort of come in, and as you exhale, just let go of the negativity, right? A day of healing. And so if you can keep those things in mind as you listen to our speakers today, think about the land, think about our ancestors, think about our goal today. This is just going to be a beautiful gathering. And on that note, I am so happy to bring Valentin Lopez, the chairman of the Amamutsun tribal band, back up on stage so he can be our first presenter. So where did Val go? There he is. All right, thank you.
This day is long overdue. Long overdue. I can remember growing up saying, what happened to our ancestors? When I was growing up, every time I would leave the house, my aunts, my grandmother, remember, always say you're Mexican. Never say you're Indian. It wasn't safe to be Indian. It wasn't safe. When you look at our history, we went through 3 periods of brutal colonization. They wanted to destroy our cultures, our spirituality, our indigenous knowledge, our humanity. They were being driven by directives from the Pope, papal bulls that said we had no soul, that we were not human beings. The doctrine of discovery says that indigenous people must assimilate to the European culture. They must accept Christianity or they were to be killed. How can it be safe to say you're Indian under those conditions? They paid bounty monies for Indians. The first governor said there will be a war of extermination against the California Indian. They nearly succeeded. They nearly succeeded. And that's when they were paying bounty monies. They were paying military militias to go on out, hunt down the Indians and to kill them. They legalized the kidnapping of children. And then they would shoot the parents and put the parents with white families thinking that they would grow up white. That didn't happen. The young girls, they were just being used for sexual exploitation, and the boys were just being used for pure hard labor. And then they had passed the law of indentured servitude, which is slavery. And that law of indentured servitude in California was not repealed until 1937. Indentured servitude for Native Americans was legal. Slavery of California Indians was legal in California to 1937. Why isn't any of that in the history books? Why isn't any of that in the history books? And its impact on indigenous people during that period of time. How can you have strong self-esteem? How can you have be proud of your identity? How can you know the reason for being here? understanding the path that your ancestors came on, knowing where you belong. And then you go to schools, and you're erased, ignored, and forgotten. How does that form a child in a healthy way? You look at indigenous people around the world and they suffer from historic trauma of suicide and depression, addiction. They get involved in incarceration and poverty. All tribal people know that. You look at those statistics and we always lead the pack. It's just horrible what has happened to the California Indian and to all indigenous people around the world. Why do people accept that? Why hasn't that changed? We need to make a change. We all need to make a change to that. And so that's why we're so thankful to you for being here. We speak the truth. We've been speaking the truth for many, many years. The speakers who are going to speak today have been speaking the truth for many years. But who listens? And beyond that, who takes action? Action's happening here today. The removal of that bell. Action is happening here. What we're calling for is that all bells throughout the state of California that represent those El Camino Real bells be removed. They should no longer be used as tourist attractions. They should no longer be used for profits. They should no longer be used for lies. The truth needs to be told. Ho.
All right, thank you, Val. We have some other amazing speakers now coming up for you. We're blessed to have tribal leaders, community leaders from as far away as San Diego and Oklahoma with us here today. Yay. They're going to be sharing with you words to also help convey the significance of today's ceremony. And so our next speaker is Mayor Donna Meyers from the City of Santa Cruz. Welcome. So this one's for you, and you can go right up to it. Yeah, nice and close.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is such an amazing day. And I'm going to let the story of how this happened, at least internally within the city, really from my colleague, Councilmember Cummings, former Mayor Cummings, who will come up behind me, because his work on this was just outstanding. And I'm so pleased that he brought this to the council, worked on it for almost 2 years. And I just think this is just an amazing day that we're able to say that we are the first city in the state of California that will be taking down the mission bells. I want to thank, obviously, Val for his tireless work on honoring the indigenous peoples, not only of our area of the Monterey Bay region, but throughout the world and throughout California, obviously, as well. He is tireless. He is the man who brings this story to thousands and thousands of people in his outreach, and he is really the reason why these things are happening. So Val, I just really want to recognize your leadership and your purpose on the earth at this point in time is very clear. So thank you, Val, for everything you're doing. I also just want to recognize some of the folks on our in the City of Santa Cruz that have spent a lot of hours doing this work. I want to thank our Parks and Recreation Department. I want to thank our Historic Preservation Commission that was also involved in this. And I want to thank my colleagues on the City Council. We did vote for this in a unanimous resolution. And again, we stand with everyone here today with really just a complete honor that we are doing this as the first city in California. So we do not take this honor lightly, and we will carry forth this seed to other communities and throughout California. And we will work with Val to get all the bells down in California if we can. And we will celebrate with him when we do it. But it takes sometimes local government to stand up to do these things, because unfortunately, our government has taken over the tribal governments that were here before. So we have to work within a system that I don't necessarily think is the right system that we should have to do this through, but we have to use that local government system to do the right thing. And we as council members will continue to tell this story everywhere we can, nationally and here in the state of California. I can guarantee you that. The other last just bits and pieces, I want to thank some of the other folks who helped on this. California State Parks, the staff here at the Mission have been amazing to work with. They have provided a lot of the interpretive expertise. I want to really recognize also University of California, Santa Cruz, which many of us are very proud to be alumni of. They planted the seed to do this. We went, some of the council members, Councilmember Cummings, I know, attended that ceremony. I know Councilmember Matthews and some other council members also attended the first removal of the bell, of a mission bell in Santa Cruz County, and that was done at the UCSC campus. So again, this partnership of learning institutions, of universities, of places that question the past, question the way we're telling the story of history, those are the places where change starts. You bring that down to your local city council, and you make them understand the atrocities that this bell represented, and you ask them to make change. You ask them to remove these signs of trauma and harm that were, that were inflicted on the very land that we're standing on right now. And so that is where change comes. We are just very, very pleased and very honored again to be able to host you all today. Please know that Santa Cruz is a home to everyone, and our lands and our beaches and our waters are open to all. And I hope while you're here this weekend, you spend some time in our beautiful lands and our beautiful forests. They are a healing and nurturing place, and we don't take these gifts lightly here as residents of Santa Cruz. So again, thank you, everyone. I'm going to invite up Councilmember, former Mayor Justin Cummings.
I would like to thank you all for joining us today on this very special occasion, and would also, and would also like to thank those of us who are here in spirit, living, and in the afterlife. I'd like to start today by condemning the vandalism and illegal removal of the bell that stood here last June and last night outside the hindquarter. Many of us who are here today have been working for years to bring us to this moment of reconciliation and to remove the bells into the cover of night on the eve of the day that our indigenous community had planned to celebrate the removal of these bells in a manner they saw fit was selfish and unacceptable. Just so you all know, the city could have removed these bells back in December of 2020 when we had unanimously recommended the removal, but the Amamutsun were leading this process, which is why the bell was still standing until last night. These types of shameful, cowardly acts do not help bring about positive change and reconciliation, but rather than dwell on this, I'd like to take a moment to share about how we got to where we are today and the importance around that. In 2019, I served as vice mayor of the city of Santa Cruz and was also working as the director of the UCSC Doris Duke Conservation Scholars Program, which seeks to grow diverse leadership to strengthen environmental conservation, educate future leaders in the environmental conservation for a better tomorrow. As part of the program, we invite speakers who work in conservation and land management from diverse backgrounds to meet and engage with the scholars, and we emphasize bringing in Indigenous community leaders from the lands on which we conduct research and education to tell the history about that land where we are visiting as guests. On June 20th, 2019, we were fortunate to have Amamutsun Tribal Band Chairman Valentin Lopez and Tribal Elder Eleanor Castro visit our students to tell them about the Santa Cruz area and the Amamutsun Land Trust. During our conversation, Chairman Lopez and Tribal Elder Castro spoke to our students about the atrocities that their ancestors faced here at the Santa Cruz missions. They told stories about how their ancestors were taken to Mission Santa Cruz and Mission San Juan Bautista, and the brutality that their people experienced en route and during the period of indoctrination. These stories resonated deeply with everyone who was in that room. During the meeting, Chairman Lopez explained the history of the mission bell, how the bells were historically used to control the daily lives of Indigenous people at the missions, and how the bells symbolized the period of indoctrination and genocide of Indigenous people in California. He also told us how the replicas of the mission bells had been put up along the El Camino Real throughout California to bring tourism around the mission in the early 19th century, how today he was working to remove those bells throughout the state of California, and that the first bell would be removed from UCSC campus. Chairman Lopez also mentioned to us that the city of Santa Cruz had 2 bells and wanted to see how he could work with the city to remove these 2 bells from the city, as well. And as vice mayor of the city of Santa Cruz, I told him that I was committed to working with him to see how we could remove these bells from the city of Santa Cruz. On June 21st, 2019, along with many community members and city council members, that we attended the event at UCSC. It was a very emotional and profound moment for many of us, and after that event, I, along with Councilmember Cynthia Matthews and Sandy Brown and city staff, started working to have preliminary conversations with Chairman Lopez and his staff on the mission bells in Santa Cruz and what might be done to remove them. From late 2019 to 2020, there was much turmoil in our city government, and with the recall and subsequent impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic, much of our work on the mission bells was halted to focus on community safety and stability during one of the most difficult times in the history of our community. But the bell removal remained a priority. On Juneteenth 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, I ran into Chairman Lopez outside City Hall at the Juneteenth event, and as mayor, we discussed re-engaging our conversations around bringing down the El Camino Real mission bells in the city of Santa Cruz. With previous conversations already been underway, Parks and Rec Director Tony Elliott and I brought together representatives from across different sectors of the Santa Cruz community, Indigenous leaders, Catholic religious leaders, state and local government representatives, and other community leaders to discuss a path forward towards healing and community reconciliation around the mission history and the removal of the bells. The process we developed around removing the bells created an inclusive space for people from diverse perspectives and backgrounds to be heard. We had deep, passionate conversations around the topic and had to reconcile with some very harsh realities. But at the end of the day, we acknowledged the harsh truth about what happened at the mission and wanted to forge a path forward for the truth to be told and for reconciliation. After months of discussion, the group created a process where a unanimously supported resolution endorsing the community's effort to update the narrative on Mission Plaza Park in the Mission Hill Area Historic District and request to consider the removal of the mission bells in the city of Santa Cruz was sent to the city council, recommending the resolution be sent to the Historic Preservation Commission for further input and recommendation, and ultimately come back to the council for final adoption. On December 8th, 2020, at my last meeting as mayor of the city of Santa Cruz, after receiving support from the Historic Preservation Commission and almost no community opposition, the City Council unanimously approved the resolution and removal of the mission bells from public display in the city of Santa Cruz, making the city of Santa Cruz the first city in the state of California to remove the El Camino Real mission bells. Santa Cruz is a leader not only in the state of California, but in the world. We are so fortunate to have a community that is willing to have difficult conversations and engage in ways that recognize the faults within our society and work together to bring about positive change. I'm deeply honored for being part of this process and for having the opportunity to work with so many amazing and diverse leaders from our community on a difficult part of our history. As a government official, the descendant of former slaves, a person of Cherokee descent, a scientist and an educator, It is my obligation to ensure that the accurate history of all people of this country be truthfully told. And today we are here to honor the history of the Amamutsun tribal band and all other indigenous tribes brought to the Spanish missions of California, and to celebrate a path towards peace, justice, and reconciliation. I don't think I have time to thank everyone who provided input on this effort, but I wanted to say a few special thanks and acknowledgement to the following people, and please hold your applause till the end. Sarah Latham and the team from UCSC that took lead in the removal of the bells back in 2019 at UCSC. Ziggy Rendler, Bregman, Sheila Lynch, Barbara Meister from Holy Cross Church, Jessica Cooch from Friends of the Santa Cruz State Parks, Martin Rizzo, Mark Hilkema, Linda Hitchcock, and Julia Seidel from the California State Parks, Canyon Sayers Roods, Indian Canyon Mutsun Tribe, Kat Wilder, Michelle Gloa, working with the Amamutsun Tribal Band, Marlon Novo and her team from the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History, Jessica Bond, City of Santa Cruz Parks and Rec Department, Ralph DeMericut, City of Santa Cruz City Manager's Office, Mark Urban and the owners of the Hind Quarter, 2020 Historic Preservation Commission, 2020 City Council Member Sandy Brown, Renee Golder, Martine Watkins, Mayor Donna Meyers, former Council Member Catherine Byers, and former Council Member Cynthia Matthews, and the Santa Cruz community for all of their support. I'd also like to make a very special thanks to our Parks and Rec Director, Tony Elliott, for his ongoing leadership around supporting efforts in our community to tell the truth, the full truth and history of our past. And lastly, I'd like to give a special thanks, a very special thanks, to Chairman Val Lopez for your ongoing leadership and inspiration to us all. We would not be here today without you, and many of us would not know the true history of what took place here so long ago and the scars that have been left on so many years after these horrific acts have taken place. There are many people here today who are the descendants of indigenous people, of people who have survived genocide, of people who were brought to this country against their will, of people who came to this country fleeing oppression, and there are many of us here today who continue the fight against racism, sexism, oppression, and discrimination, and we are forever grateful, Val, for your leadership and for bringing us together to honor your ancestors. As an elected official and community member, and I know this is true for the City of Santa Cruz City Council, we're committed to working on issues that are important to our indigenous community. And as we work to heal from past trauma, we look forward to working with you in the future. And I'd like to thank everyone, if we could join me in a round of applause and appreciation for Chairman Lopez and everyone who has worked to remove the El Camino Real mission bells from the City of Santa Cruz. Just so we're clear, today we are not erasing history or canceling history. We're getting history right and telling the truth. My hope is that this day will inspire other communities across the state of California to acknowledge their past and work with indigenous leaders to remove the El Camino Real mission bells across the state and help indigenous peoples and indigenous tribes heal from historic trauma. I'd like to thank you all for your time, peace, one love, power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words. They're absolutely amazing, and I'm so happy to hear the more speakers on this matter. So the next speaker coming up is from California State Parks, Martin Rizzo-Martinez, historian.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here today. Oh, a little closer? Okay. How's that sound? Okay. So yeah, it's an honor to be here. I want to start by recognizing the land that we are on. The lands that we are all gathered here today are the lands historically of the Awaswas-speaking Ohlone tribe known as the Oipi tribe. The village site that we are close by here by the mouth of San Lorenzo is called Avlintak, which is translates to being the place of the red abalone. I want to start by pointing out maybe the obvious, but I am not native to California. My ancestors do not call this land their homeland, as is probably the case with a lot of people who are out here. And I want to point out that as a guest living on these beautiful lands, I was born and raised in California, lived in Santa Cruz for over 20 years now. Like so many here, I am a guest on these lands. And so I feel that it is incumbent upon myself and upon all of us to learn about the histories and the people whose lands that we are on today, to stand in solidarity with the local Native communities, and most importantly, to listen to and learn from Native people today. Right now, today, we have this wonderful opportunity, the incredible lineup that you're about to be hearing from, and we started hearing from, but we have Indigenous leaders who are coming in from all up and down the state, many of whose ancestors have survived the missions, as has been said before. But as a historian, what I would like to do is just offer a little bit of context, and the best that I can do is to offer context and to help amplify the voices that we have to learn from, these Native voices that are here. So there's a little bit of a historical context. In 1906, a group of women's clubs, automobile clubs, and California boosters worked together with a plan to build tourism. And this, what they came up with was this plan to put together these bell markers along this fabled and invented El Camino Real, which of course was really built on old Native highways and travelways and trade routes. So these folks in 1906, they turned to the Franciscan scholars who at the time were the ones who were telling the official story of California history. And of course, this official story we know today, and we knew back then, is a fabricated mythology. It's a romanticized notion of California history, which is all a fancy way to say it's lies, all lies. So when these folks turned to the Franciscan scholars to try to tell this history, a lot of people will say, well, the Native people weren't telling these stories, which of course is not true either, because at the same time in 1906 that this was happening, Native people were sharing their stories, were recording their stories, were talking about what really did happen. They just weren't being listened to. So I want to, especially not by the people who are making the bell markers. So what they told was a whole different story. A lot of what they told was how they were treated at the missions, which was comparable to being treated like animals, which is to actually say more accurately, they were treated the same way that the Spanish settlers were treating their livestock, because of course Native people had a different relationship with animals than the Spanish did. So I'm going to give a little context here of Santa Cruz. We are standing right in the spot where Mission Santa Cruz was. I think it's important for people to realize the devastation and loss that happened right here. There was about 2,500 Native people who received baptism at Mission Santa Cruz from 1791 at its founding until the close of the mission in 1830s. At the time of the closing of the mission, when people were finally emancipated from the mission, there was just over 200 people. Out of the 2,500 people, when you do the math, that means that over 90% of the people who received baptism at Mission Santa Cruz, Native people, died during that period of time. On top of that, when I did research and looked at the children who were born within the mission, so this is Native children, there was just under 500 Native children born during that period, 40-year period. And of those nearly 500 children, over 50% of them did not survive to the age of 1. And on top of that, another 25% did not survive to the age of 5, which means over 75% of the children, Native children born at the mission here, died in infancy, right, before the age of 5. And comparatively, of course, those numbers are atrocious compared to what was happening right outside of the mission. So this idea that the missions brought anything positive or helped people is, of course, completely inaccurate. It doesn't stand up. So here at Mission Santa Cruz, there was one survivor. One of the few who survived here was a fellow named Lorenzo Asisara. And he actually lived, we stand right here, he actually lived in a house in the 1860s that is kind of right up there, probably underneath where Highway 17 runs, with a friend of his named Ricardo Shuklan was his native name, who had been the former song leader at the mission. They were part of the surviving community around here. And Asisara gave a number of interviews in the 1870s and 1880s. He actually lived till right about the same time that these mission bell markers were being made. He died in the early 1900s. He was a survivor of the missions. And the story that he told, I think is pertinent because we're here in Santa Cruz, but the story that Asisara shared were very different, of course, than these romanticized fables that you're hearing that we've all been taught over the years. Asisara talked about Padre Quintana, who was here at Mission Santa Cruz. And this is a sadistic missionary who was here who had a special whip fashioned with iron at the tips so that it would cut deeper when he punished people with his whippings, which was frequent. But Quintana was not an isolated case. Some people say, well, okay, that was one bad apple or whatever the saying might be. Of course, that's not the case. Asisara talked about a lot of different situations, a lot of different missionaries who committed these awful abuses. In one story, he talked about a young couple who were trying to conceive a child, and they were unable to, and so Padre Lopez forced the couple to have sex in front of him. He inspected their bodies. Again, treating people like livestock, like animals, in this dehumanizing way. But I think it's important to recognize that Asisara didn't just talk about traumas and abuses that happened here. He certainly talked about those, but he really emphasized the way that people fought back and that they challenged these. In the case of Padre Quintana, a group of young men and women got together and they said, what are we going to do? And they ended up assassinating him. They took him out because he was causing these abuses. In the case of this young couple, Asisara talked about how they fought back, how the woman clawed at him and cut his face because she was forced into this. Again, the emphasis was on the ways that people fought back and that they resisted this dehumanizing treatment and they asserted their rights and their humanity, even in these unbearable odds. And I'm going to wrap this up here because I think there's so many amazing speakers I want to get to, but I just want to kind of get to that point here that at every mission, at every place in California, within every tribal community, they have these same stories, right? And these stories have not been told, right? Or at least not been shared outside of the Native communities that know these stories because it's been dominated by this other romanticized story. But it's time for us to learn these stories and to understand the ways that people got together and that they fought and resisted and they challenged their oppressions and all that they had to deal with. And when you're going to see all these amazing Native leaders who are coming up here today, just keep that in mind that they are carrying on these same traditions. They're doing the same thing today by persisting, by challenging, and by asserting their own rights to be here. And so it is our opportunity right now to be able to listen to and learn from these Native leaders. And I hope that we can all do that here today. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for that. It's so important for us to put this in context, to remind us of the history, to hear it, to internalize it, and to keep talking about it. There's so many people that aren't sharing this information as much as we should. So continue this conversation throughout the day and throughout, even after you leave the event today. So now we have our next speaker coming, Sarah Latham, Vice Chancellor, UC Santa Cruz. So thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for coming out today. I'd like to recognize the members of the Amamutsun community, tribal elders, and members from tribes across the state and region who have joined us today. It is indeed a pleasure to be here and an honor and a privilege that I do not take lightly. When Chairman Lopez invited me to be part of this ceremony and the activities of the day, it meant so much to me because Chairman Lopez, over the 4 years that I've known him, has become a hero to me. I have almost immeasurable gratitude and admiration for him as a leader, as an advocate, and for a wonderful human being and a wonderful soul. I first met him, yes, let's applaud him again. You cannot applaud him enough. I first met Chairman Lopez 4 years ago. I co-chaired the UC Santa Cruz Long Range Development Planning Committee, And because of the history and the origin of the land on which our campus sits, I thought it was critical to incorporate the voices of the Amamutsun tribal band. So we included a member of the tribal band on our planning committee, Jolisa, who was one of our students, and we invited Chairman Lopez to talk to us at one of our very first committee meetings. At that meeting, he spoke about the history of the Amamutsun. He spoke about the history of the land on which UC Santa Cruz sits. He also spoke about the current challenges facing Native and Indigenous communities throughout our state and the nation. But it was something he said at the very end of that meeting that struck me and impacted me, and so many others in that room. He said there was a mission bell on the UC Santa Cruz campus, and he would like to see it removed. He went on to very passionately and eloquently talk about the symbolism of the mission bell. He said that to Native and Indigenous communities across our state, the Amamutsun and beyond that they viewed the mission bell to be a symbol of oppression, of injustice, of trauma. That to them, he said, the mission bell had the same sort of symbolism as the Confederate flag. At the end of that meeting, I turned to my co-chair of the committee and I said, I didn't even know that we had a mission bell on our campus. And she said, neither did she. But we took those words from Chairman Lopez to be a call to action. And for the next year and a half, we worked to understand the history of that mission bell. How did it come to be on UC Santa Cruz's campus? Who was involved in that? We also engaged with stakeholders across the community and across our campus to talk about the mission bell, to talk about why we thought it was important that it get removed. Our students became some of our most wonderful and passionate partners and advocates for its removal. And as was stated earlier by Justin, on a June day, a very foggy Santa Cruz morning, on UC Santa Cruz's campus, we all gathered with Chairman Lopez and many of you to remove that mission bell. I recognize that that moment did not erase the injustices or the trauma that so many attending that ceremony and their ancestors had faced. But I could tell from the tears that I saw shed, the emotion on the faces of people in attendance, that though it did not erase the trauma, it was cathartic to everybody to finally feel that they had been heard, that someone had listened about what that bell meant. In my 9 years at UC Santa Cruz, that day in June of 2019 remains one of the most important and meaningful things I've ever been blessed to be a part of. And I thank Chairman Lopez for that. Now, because we were the very first entity to ever remove a mission bell, we got a lot of attention for it. The Associated Press picked up the story, and articles ran in newspapers across the country and across the globe. It was featured on CNN and MSNBC's websites. And because I was quoted in that article, I was the recipient of the responses we got from as nearby as Santa Cruz and as far away as Spain about people's opinions of what we had done. And though many people that called me or emailed me supported what we did, they said they thought we made the right choice. The vast majority of outreach we received was just the opposite. Not only did people disapprove of what we had done, they expressed their disapproval with vitriol and indeed hate for the action we took and indeed the people involved in that day. I received some of the most horrific emails from people who had a very different opinion of what that mission bell meant. I was accused of being part of erasing history. One woman in Southern California said I had, quote, a decrepit soul and I was going to hell for being part of that day. Yes. So be it, so be it. But instead of those messages, those emails, those phone calls making me or other UC Santa Cruz leaders feel that we had made a mistake in removing the bell, it actually only reinforced that we did the right thing. Thank you. But it reinforced a couple of other critical things as well. It reinforced that education and action are key. You know, we are quick to judge and often slow to educate people who we encounter that we view have closed minds or narrow minds. We just kind of discount them as bad individuals. But yet education is critical, but that education cannot be borne on the shoulders of our Native and Indigenous community members. That educational responsibility lies with all of us. You see, I grew up in Southern California, going to public schools where in my history books, I read about a very romanticized version of the Native and Indigenous experience, a very romanticized version of Thanksgiving, a very romanticized version of the missions and the mission bells. So education is key because as opposed to those individuals who accused us of erasing history, we felt that actually we were telling the full history. We were making sure that the voices of Native and Indigenous cultures were heard, that their traumas, the injustices were part of what future generations learn when they learn about the missions and the mission bell. But in addition to education, action is key too. When we were leaving that day in June of 2019, Chairman Lopez said to me, "Sarah, this is just the beginning." He said, "I want to see the mission bells in Santa Cruz removed." So here we are nearly 2 years later, and that moment has come. No matter who took them down, they are down. But I want to leave you all with the same words that Chairman Lopez left with me that day in June of 2019. This is just the beginning. Though today is a day to celebrate, to mark this important moment, it's a step on the journey towards justice. It's a step towards reconciliation, a step towards healing, a step towards telling hard truths and telling the full history. It is just that. It's just a step. We are far from the end of the journey, and I look forward to joining all of you step by step on that journey towards full justice and full removal of all mission bells. So with that, I bid you peace, and I bid you thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Next up are 2 or 3 members from the Amamutsun Tribal Band Youth Committee. We have Alexi Sigona, Stephen Pratt, and Carolyn, and more, and Carolyn Rodriguez. Yay! Alexi, come up nice and close, okay? Come up nice and close to the mic.
Maybe a bit more than 2 or 3. Well, Mishmin Truhis, everyone. It's a great day here today. We're in beautiful UP territory, and it's so amazing that y'all are here supporting us. Thank you for the elders and all the other supporters here. We are the Amamutsun Youth Group, and we're just a group of young tribal members really interested in, restoring our culture and kind of following what the past generations have kind of, paved the way for. So we're just so thankful for our tribal leadership, all the other indigenous leaders out there and activists that have kind of paved the way so that we're able to practice our culture and to connect to the land in a good way. So thank you, y'all.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to quickly say thank you for coming, and we really appreciate your support. Without you guys, this would be a much slower process and probably not even happening in its entirety, so thank you.
Hi there, my name is Stephen Pratt, and I'm a part of this youth group, and I deeply love this group we have, and you all here are helping move that forward to us relearning our culture and embracing that, so thank you.
I'm really short, sorry. I hope everyone can hear me. So I'm Carolyn Rodriguez, and I'm a part of the youth group to basically help the youth learn about the culture, because I feel like for me, I grew up not really connecting to my ancestors, not practicing the culture. And I remember I went to UC Santa Cruz like right before Julissa did. And I remember walking by the mission bell, and now I look back and I realize that I was so displaced that I didn't even know I was displaced. I didn't know that I was walking on this land. I knew I was walking on the land of my ancestors, but I didn't quite understand what the bell meant because I was so young in my journey and learning, and now I've learned so much, and now I'm just astonished by the history and by basically how we don't talk about the true history of what happened to our ancestors. And so I graduated working at UC Santa Cruz for a few years, and that's when Julissa came, and I was there. I left campus, but was able to come back and to witness the bell being removed. And that is just a beautiful feeling to realize, to just learn so much and to be on this journey, and to now, I'm getting a little emotional, but to basically pass down our knowledge to the younger generation so that way they grow up knowing about themselves and not having, like, they can walk on campus and like know who they are and know about their culture. So thank you, everybody. It's really important to us, and thank you for your support.
Stick the landing. Rock and roll. Is that it? Yep.
I have to take a moment. Fills my heart every time I see the youth committee. And I just appreciate their words. Thank you. Thank you all. Next up, Chairwoman Louise J. Miranda Ramirez of the Ohlone Costanoan Echelon Nation. Thank you. Chairwoman Louise Miranda. Oh, coming. Okay. Thank you so much.
Don't get rid of the king. Hey, I'm short too, young ladies. Hila panamikalaing. Ni masia ne alpa salaki. Pami niku. Amamutsun. Manu kwipa lechi hano la iwano matsa nishmap yoel kitu kanamsha masana tahawi pizi at sia pami ami chakpasa muatas efehe hetan Ohlone Costanoan Echelon Nation efehe hetan the Greater Monterey Bay Area. So in case you don't know where we're at, we're across the bay. We're on the opposite side. We are in people from most of Monterey County. So what I want to tell you is I am the daughter of Alfred Edward Miranda, who is Echelon and Chumash. I am the daughter of Marcelina Miranda Corral, who is Chumash and Mexican. I am the granddaughter of Thomas Anthony Miranda and Marquesa Robles, who is Chumash. I am the granddaughter of Thomas Santos Miranda and Maria Inez Agnes Garcia, both Echelon. When we talk about Echelon, that's because it is believed at one time throughout Monterey, we were all Echelon. Today, you hear people saying that they're Rumsen because of the Costanoan. Rumsen is a language that was given to our people in that area. It is not who we are, but many times people adopt the word that comes with the language. We are a Chaston. We are Shalon. We are many others. We are the San Carlos Band of Indians. We are the Monterey Band of Indians. In 1906, when we talk about C.E. Kelsey coming out to identify the landless Indians of California, when he got into Monterey, the mission was already over in Carmel. So he went out to Carmel and they said there's no Indians there. He said, but if you check 2 leagues to the south, which is about 6 miles, you will find at the Sur Rancheria, and that's where my great-grandfather and grandmother and grandfather were identified as the Monterey Band of Monterey. And then Kelsey was called back on emergency and not able to identify any other of our people by name, except that he put out in the ocean, there's 50 more people here. So that was the last time we were federally recognized. And then even that was taken from us. And the 12 acres of that the Sur Rancheria included was taken from us as settlers, and what we called the Machaipa came. They are the hungry people. Our word for hunger is Machaipa. And to talk about white people, we talk about them as Machaipa, because they are the hungry people. They want everything. So I was looking about the bells. I was looking online to find out more, just to figure out what people think about them, because it's to get that different opinion. So in 2004, Caltrans installed 557 mission bell markers from South San Francisco to Los Angeles along the El Camino Real and Highway 101, okay? Since 1906, the bells have been made of cast iron. They have never been made of brass or aluminum until 2007, and most of the older bells have all been lost to road widening. A few cement bells were made in 1960. Bells that you see on the road that are verde green have been painted. The El Camino Real bell weighs 85 pounds, so if you're gonna go find one, make sure you can carry 85 pounds, okay? Okay, Caltrans used freeway height of 15 feet 6 inches. They thought, because we're short, we wouldn't get it down, okay? There's a picture of the bell on site, and it says it's cast iron and our bright silver color when after the first rains that turned California, okay? Now the next page, just in case any of you have a lot of money and you're planning on getting married, you can order a bell and have your name put on it. And it's only $45 for each one. You can give everybody in the wedding one. It's okay? So it says the El Camino Real Mission Guidepost Desk Bell, 9 inches tall, patina brass. This bell is a miniature replica of the full-size guidepost bells installed along historical El Camino Real, which connects the 21 California missions. The bell shows dates of 1769 and 906. 1769 is the date of the first mission in San Diego, and 1906 is the date that the first guidepost bell was installed in front of Old Plaza Church in downtown Los Angeles. $45. They're making money there. Okay, next page. You can also buy miniatures of every bell at the different missions. So if you want to buy from Carmel, it's only $11. And if you want to buy it with the book, it's only $60. And if you want to know where they're all at, and it's only a $30 book. Okay. Oh, and if you want to know where the bells of Capistrano are in a book, and other romances of the Spanish days in California, it's only $175. Okay? So here we go. It says, now what I'm reading to you is what they posted. I'm not going to tell you what part I added on to the statement, okay? You guys guess. Bells were vitally important and immensely valuable to the missions and early life. Bells were used to call community to meals, religious services, work, funerals, and the sightings of ship supply, the sighting of a returning padre, and for recreational purposes, like beatings, capturing runaways, capturing the padre, and crushing his testicles. Today, after extensive research and design, the Mission Gift Shop has crafted a series of collected brass, I was going to say balls, but we'll go with bells, reminiscent of the bygone era. The bells are produced in great detail with beautiful tone and precise craftsmanship demanded by such an important piece of California history. Due to the handcrafted nature, the Mission Gift Shop bell collection, there are some variations in their appearance and features. Okay, I just printed up the pictures, but it really doesn't. And this right here, oh, go on, is something that we have to stop. They're doing a 4th grade mission project where you can buy the bells for the students. Go online. Send them something. MissionGiftShop.com. It's time to stop them, too. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. September 7th, the city of Carmel is deciding whether it's time to return Sarah's statue to the front of their town. 80% of the people have voted to return it. 66% of the people have voted to pay for it to be returned. We need to make sure that it's not returned, and we need to make sure that the once headless Sarah statue at the Presidio is removed as well. Thank you.
Did I? Okay. Thank you so much, Chairwoman Ramirez. That was perfect, right? And a lot to unpack there. But one thing that it additionally reminds me of is that we are here not just, we are hosting as the Amamutsun Band, but this is about all California tribes. We are here to remind us about what was going on all throughout these lands. So I'm so happy to hear and continue to invite tribal members from other tribes to remind us of that history. So with that said, Rudy Ortega, tribal president of the Fernandeño Tataviam Band of Mission Indians.
Amiatam natawan Rudy Ortega Jr. ni Ana Tomiar at papasikan tataviam tam acham. Hello everyone, I'm Rudy Ortega Jr. I'm the tribal president or captain of the Fernandeño Tataviam people. I come from Mission San Fernando, which is in Los Angeles County. And our people are mixed and spoke from different dialects in that area. My ancestry itself, we come from the village of Situcanga, which is in Encino, in the San Fernando Valley, Atochonanga, Chaiwananga, in the Santa Cruz Valley. And I also have Chumash blood from the village of Tapo in Simi Valley. The people who always had integrated before the missions have came. And what we're talking about is removal of the bow and what it meant. And what the stories have been passed down. How my ancestors didn't appreciate the bow. It talked about forced labor, talked about enslavement. It talked about a change of indigenous culture. It was a cancellation of indigenous culture. And that's what that bell rang and meant to them. Today we're here to honor Amamutsun. We're here to honor Kamal. We're here to honor all the different tribes up and down Northern and Southern California. Because they go through the similar histories of ours, a disappearance and erasure of our people. My tribe, as many other tribes in California, struggle with identity, with federal acknowledgement, and people of ourselves. We heard the stories of how we had to erase our own culture to be identified, to live, to survive on our ancestral soil. These trees that speak of our people, these trees that have our ancestral blood and line in it. This land is soil, no matter what you may call it, it's still Indian land. So I'd like to thank Chairman Lopez and all his people, all his citizens of his tribe, because we're civilized people who lived in our villages and our communities. I brought my two boys up here, Tomier, Noli. And we're going to sing one of our songs, the bear song. And we felt as myself, a bear dancer, it's time for healing and it's time for our own songs to be heard. So we would like to do that for everyone here. Oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, no hunga, no sera, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, no hunga, no sera, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, no sunga, no sera, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, no hunga, no sera, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, oh, what ara hara, no hunga, no sera, So I thank you, Aminat. As I share the stage here with many other tribal folks and folks that are supporting the Native community, speaks volumes. Today is a different day of age and time, and I could spit here all day, talk about my father's stories, my relatives' stories, my cousins, who all share the pain and the stories about how much wrong that was done to our families. But I want to talk about the light at the end of the tunnel and what we're here to do today and what tomorrow brings for us. To see that the different people from different walks of life that have come here to this land to cherish and to see prosperous futures, that now we're sharing that bridge and experiencing each other's culture and religion. If we were talking about removing racism, it's about opening your eyes and your hearts and let someone else speak the truth and to listen to that. So with that, I thank you. I thank you, Chairman. I thank you all for coming up here as well, who will be speaking. So, Witiako.
Thank you so much for the words and the song. It's beautiful. Next up is Stan Rodriguez, the Kumeyaay Ipai lead, elder. Stan Rodriguez. And you can come up nice and close to the mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you hear me? Okay, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to acknowledge the chairs who have come here. Chairwoman Gill, is that how you say your last name? Chairwoman Miranda, Chairman Ortega, and Chairman Lopez. You know, the leadership that has come here, and all the leaders that are out here today. And various things that you do. Some of you are tribal leaders, others are spiritual leaders, others are activists in the community, and all the supporters, all of you that come here. So this is something that's very important for all of us. So I am a guest here in this land, and I just wanted to say thank you for allowing all of us to come here to this beautiful country. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk American. Okay? Okay, penya mate pe cham. Stamu nya chohinya makopai wiskonan. Pela helikoe nya wet wu yupi. Nyep mat yukhan, nyep mat kwakhan, nyep mat akhan. Puknachis moya nyep maya khanya wa. Nyepi pe pu pa yo nye hiku. Shohu jamat hao nya wet. Shohu wislawa nya puma kanab nyep tekilam nyep bel. Chacha mishyep nya chunya tapsu, chunya koslawan. So what I said was we've come here for this ceremony. This ceremony here, we'll talk about this mission bell. A lot of talk was happening before. A lot of people talked about the things that have happened, the atrocities that have took place. But what I just wanted to say, I wanted to acknowledge the courage and bravery of the people of these communities to say no more. That these lies that have been perpetrated on our people, and you see these, I mean, how many of you have gone to, gone to grammar school and they tell these lies upon lies upon lies, that these missions were put out here and California Indians were peaceful and they loved it. How many of you ever read that? I know they told me. And I remember the 4th grade projects. And I just wanted to say, I'm proud to say, I am an Ipai Kumyai from the San Isabel Reservation. And I'm proud to be a mission-burning Indian because we burned our mission down. We fought back, and other people fought back too. And that is not in our history. That is not in our history. And the true history needs to be told, that our people are Hua, are warriors. Our people have stood up and fought. We did not try to proselytize to turn people into our way. We all know that everybody has their own way, but they tried to take everything away from us. And I just want to say, when these young people came up here, it touched my heart. When they were talking about they wanted to teach the others, they wanted to teach the younger generation, because language and culture, the vibrancy of all that is demonstrated by how many of the young people do it, how many of the young people speak the language, how many of the young people participate in cultural events. You can have all the elders doing it, but if you have none of the young people doing it, your culture, your language is in danger of going dormant. This is so true. And to have these young people come up here and say, you know what, we are proud of who we are, it touches our heart. So I wanted to say to all of you that our culture, our language, what we're doing here, we've been invited to support. And that's our way as Native people. When we hear a call to action, we go and support because we know it's happened to us too. When we are a bundle of arrows, we are powerful, we are unbreakable. We can do many things together, and that's what I see here today. And last thing before I shut my snoot is I wanted to say, the people I come from, the Kumeyaay people, the Ipai people from San Diego and northern Baja, we not only make baskets, we also make pottery. And there's a story that I'm not going to say, colonization, I'll call it encroachment, 3 waves of encroachment. They tried to conquer us, and I'm not conquered. And I don't see conquered people here. As long as we fight, as long as we resist, we are not conquered. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. We are Hua, we are warriors. And I wanted to say, we talk about the 3 waves of encroachment. It was like taking a great pot, we call it askai, and they threw it on the ground and they broke it into many pieces. And each community has a shard of that. How many of you have ever made a pot before? Ever made any pottery? A number of you have. What happens when the pot breaks? What do you do? One time I made a pot, and I put it out traditionally in the fire, and it shattered. And I looked at it, and I said, gee, all that work, what's going to happen? It's not a pot anymore. And this elder, she told me, bring all those shards together. I brought them together, and we ground it up. And she said, get new clay. Got new clay and mixed the shards, mixed that temper with the new clay. She said, the next pot you make will be strong, and it will not break in the fire. It is the same thing with what we are doing, people. What we are doing, because we are preserving our culture. We are saying no to this. We are standing up. And the people from this land have taken on the leadership role in showing that it can be done. It can be taken. And now we can take it to all the other communities and say, you know what? We've seen this. We can do the same thing. So I just wanted to say to all of you, and if you don't speak your language, you're still breathing. You can learn it. You can bring it back. You can bring back who you are. You can bring this back. And one day, your descendants will say, my great-grandparents, they remember a time when almost nobody spoke the language, and they made that turn around. And now we're all speaking our language. This is a beautiful time, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say it. May the Creator bless all of you in your minds, in your hearts, in your bodies.
Thank you so much. The next speaker coming up is Mary Lopez Kefir, a member of the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians, who also serves on the California Native American Heritage Commission. So, Mary Lopez Kefir. Oh, there we go. Thank you. You can come right up first.
Oh, okay. This one? That one. That one? Yeah. Oh, hello, everyone. Little surprised. Mio yam notang Mary Lopez Kefir yaka. I greeted you. I said hello to everyone, and I introduced myself. I am a member of the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians. We are closely, obviously, related to the San Luis Rey Mission. That is in Oceanside, California, San Diego County. The Mission Bells is a very emotional topic for myself and for my family members. I wear many different hats, as probably many of you do. And for my tribe, I serve as a senior policy advisor. I was previously their general counsel, meaning I was their attorney. I am also a member of the Native American Heritage Commission, which is an amazing commission for the state of California, whose sole purpose is to protect sacred sites and burial grounds. I'm only one of 9 members, and we are all California Native Americans. I'm also very privileged to be a part of the UC's Critical Mission Studies project. I serve as the chair of the Native American Advisory Group for that project. And I just want to, before I go any further, because I am a little bit nervous, is I want to say a special thanks and appreciation to Chairman Lopez for inviting me today. I'm very blessed that I am able to visit all of the tribes throughout California, not only in my capacity as a commissioner, but in my current position with the Attorney General's office, I serve as the director of the Office of Native American Affairs for Attorney General Rob Bonta at the California Department of Justice. A very interesting perspective. I was a prosecutor and also a tribal attorney, so it's a different perspective to bring to that office. And hearing everyone speak today has given me newfound hope. And I say that because Santa Cruz is an example for everyone, not just the members of this community to know what great work your tribal leadership and your government leadership is doing, but also your partners with UC Santa Cruz. I'm hoping that I can bring what has been achieved here statewide. The partnerships that were forged by Chairman Lopez and the Amamutsun, the city leaders at your city council, your parks department, the state parks department, the UC Santa Cruz itself, it's a testament to who you are as a community. And it sets the framework and the pathway for cities and counties and state agencies all across this state to do exactly the same. And it's, as the shirts all say, it's to remove the myth. What the bells represent, why they are, it's such an emotional topic for myself, is because whenever I hear them, I have an overwhelming feeling of anxiety. That's historical trauma. It pains me to hear a mission bell. And I apologize for becoming emotional, but I did forewarn you. That's an emotional topic. But hearing about the leadership that started in this community, the conversations of, I would like to see the bells removed, and explaining why, and then actually having a community listen, that is incredibly rare. So thank you, Santa Cruz. Thank you, Chairman Lopez. And let's remove them all.
Thank you. The next two speakers are Caroline Ward and Kagan Holland, also from the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, and the Walk for Our Ancestors. So Caroline and Kagan. Yes, no? Oh, okay. Yay. Wonderful, thank you. And you can come up nice and close to the mic.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caroline, and I am one of the leaders of Walk for the Ancestors, and a walk that we took in 2015 to honor our ancestors at the time that the Pope was canonizing Una Pedicera. I want to, this is my son, Kagan. We, first of all, you walked 780 miles, or you knew you were going to walk that far, but you didn't know why. You know, you just knew that that was something you needed to do. So I posted this information on the No Saint site on Facebook, and I got 2 responses. Cat Wilder and Greg Sela and Cotton, both of them Santa Cruz residents. And they supported us that whole time that we walked. Cat was with us every day. So we just got reminded that we walked by every single one of those bells. And Kagan has a bell, what do you call it? Phobia, you might say. So when we got to Laguna and talking with Sea Lion and Cat, we decided that we were gonna tie red ribbons on these bells and reclaim them, you know, reclaim that. and tell the truth on those bells as well. And Val and his people and the people of Santa Cruz have brought that to fruition, and it's just so heartwarming to know that Santa Cruz is here. I mean, if Santa Cruz is behind it, it's going to get done. And that's a fact. Kagan? Okay, go ahead, Kagan. You want to talk? Okay, so Walk for the Ancestors and Santa Cruz have a history that will forever be ingrained in my mind. We had a circle here of about 80, 85 people strong, and it's just it tells what Santa Cruz is about. So I'm not surprised that that's happened here in this community. And I'm very honored to be a part of this event and to be here with some of the heavy hitters in indigenous community. My tribal leaders here, Rudy Ortega, Stan Rodriguez, Val Lopez. I have to tell you, I'm gonna tell on Val, when we were walking, I was calling through the tribal leaders and asking for permission to come through their homelands and letting them know what we were doing, asking them to meet us at their respective missions and pray with us and be there to hold space for the ancestors. And I was talking to Val on the phone, and he said, well, I give you permission. You sound sincere in your heart. This is what you want to do. And he said, just be polite and don't flip anybody the bird. So we didn't do that. Okay, give you.
And we didn't. Oh, this one's not on. And we didn't, by the way. Yeah, so again, my name is Kagan, Holland. I also participated in the Walk for the Ancestors. Our journey was an eye-opening experience for me, even as a Native person. You know, I was always brought up knowing the truth about our people and what happened, but really walking through the different territories and talking to a lot of the different indigenous leaders, I learned more in 3 months than I did in 21 years of life, learning in the American school system, you know? So again, thank you all for coming and hearing Native voices and listening to our stories, because that's the way we've always done it. We've always done things, oral history, you know? And that was part of the problem why the Spanish were able to, you know, erase our history. They came with their written language, and that is what, you know, the Western perspective is. Whatever is written down is the truth. But now you guys hear our voices and you know the real truth of Native people and our stories. And again, I want to thank Val Lopez, Kat Wilder, Malia, all of our supporters, Greg Cotton, everybody here today. You guys are really participating in correcting the record and setting the record straight, you know? And this is a big step. This is, you know, I know this is the last bell for Santa Cruz, but this is, again, the first of many that are going to come down. And this is the beginning of a big movement of spreading truth and history. And I'm eternally grateful to be a part of that. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So we're about 2/3 of the way through, so we have about 35 minutes left. There's been amazing speakers, and we have a few more for you, so thank you so much. I'm sure this is, every moment has been worthwhile. So we're a little bit over, but it's okay, right? It's absolutely okay, yes. All right. Our next speaker is Karina Gould, Tribal Chair, Confederated Villages of Lishan, and co-founder of the Sigorete Land Trust. Nice to see you, Karina. You can come up nice and close.
Warshetuhi ka'at Lashanka ka'at ra'at Karina. Good day, relatives. My name is Karina Gould. I am the chairperson of the Confederated Villages of Lishan. I'm also the co-founder of the Sigorete Land Trust. The language I spoke to you in is Chochenyo. My great-grandfather, Jose Guzman, was one of the last speakers of the language. My daughter, Deja, is the language carrier for our tribe now. And I'm awfully I'm awfully blessed to be here today. Just to be really transparent, this is the farthest I've come from my home in 18 months. And I came here because Val and the Amamutsun asked me to be here today. We're all still dealing with this thing called COVID. It's not gone. And I'm really aware that we need to really take care of ourselves and our tribal elders and leaders in this time. There's been a lot of people that we've lost, song carriers and culture bearers and language holders, in this time that the world is trying to tell us to do something else. I want to thank the Amamutsun tribal band for their generosity. When I came here last night, I went to the ocean and I put down my prayers for the Awaswas people on whose land we stand. And I asked for prayers for all of us that are gathering here today. Prayers for us and our safety, prayers for the Amamutsun, prayers for our other tribal leaders and people that we're traveling here to be a part of this historic moment. I've been blessed in my life to be a part of many historic moments, things that our ancestors dreamed about, as we are the dreams of our ancestors after all. When Commissioner came up and she was crying, I wanted to just yell out, it's okay, those tears were given to us by our ancestors, our Creator, a way for us to clean all of that stuff out. And we're here holding you. When Martin started telling those stories about those ancestors and what they experienced there, I had to take out my root and burn it because I started having an anxiety attack about that, because it triggered all kinds of things. I grew up directly across the street from St. Lawrence O'Toole, a Catholic church, and every day at 9, at 12, at 3, at 6, at 9, those church bells rang. Every day, I heard those mission bells ringing. My ancestors come from many different tribes. We're a confederation of tribes of tribal people who have been erased of history books. Lishan people, we come from that waterway, the Lishan waterway. Our mountain is Tuyushtak, which many people know as Mount Diablo. But our confederation is also inclusive of Bay Miwok and Plains Miwok and Delta Yokut and Napian, all tribes that have been erased from history, and yet I'm still here. So as long as one of us still breathes, as long as one of us still says that language out loud, so as long as one of us still prays at our sacred sites, so long as one of our grandchildren can hold up and laugh, we are still here. And so this mission bell removal reminds us that we are still here. It invigorates us. It gives us life again. It gives us an ability to breathe. It gives us the ability to stand strong and stand straight and to tell our ancestors that we did not give up, that we are all still here. I am blessed to stand on this stage and to hold this space with so many people that have done the incredibly hard work of protecting sacred sites, of bringing back language, of learning those songs again, of doing those walks of prayer. I get to stand here alongside of them and get to remember those times that we shared together. I remember when we first started doing the work with Val around Junipero Serra and the things that happened. And I remember standing and having huge prayers and protests in front of Mission Dolores, where my ancestors were enslaved at, Mission San Jose, where my ancestors were enslaved at, remembering that our ancestors were buried there, just like they're buried here. When I heard Martin talk about the babies that didn't make it, 3/4 of them out of 500, It also reminded me of the 6,500 children that were coming home finally after being killed at these places that they enforced us to go to, these schools, these places that were many times Catholic schools that our children were lost to. They keep coming home because they have a story to tell us. They keep coming home because they say, we're still here for you. They keep coming home because they tell us that we're not done with the work we're supposed to do. These mission bells coming down is that work, that important work that gives the next generation the ability to stand strong, to know that us, all of us, have come together. We're not standing here looking at a wave of just indigenous faces, but we have all four colors of those four directions standing here with us today. And I want to thank your ancestors for coming, for bringing you here today, for thinking that you can hear these stories, because it's not just our stories to tell anymore. Because once you hear these stories, that is your responsibility to tell these stories again. It is your responsibility to stand with us to stop the mission fourth grade curriculum. It's your time to stand with us to tell the truth to history. It's your time as well. We rely on our allies and accomplices to stand with us to do this incredible hard work, to take leadership from indigenous people right now, to know that when we are moving forward together for the goodness of all that live in our territories now. What happens if our indigenous people were the leaders of our original homelands again? Would we kick you out? Is that what the fear is? We are now living in a place together. But when we talk about land back, that's exactly what we mean. Give the land back. Tell the Catholic churches all of the land that they have to give it back to the indigenous people on who owns that land. And it cannot just be our voices. It has to be your voices along with us. Give it back. Stop the ancestors from coming out of the ground because of corporate greed. Help us to stop the destruction of our earth. Keep it in the ground so that we can all breathe. We lay down the prayers for the next 7 generations, just like our ancestors prayed for us 7 generations before. We are the bridge between the past and that future. And it is our time to do whatever we can to ensure that future for those next 7 generations. So I pray to those relatives that are crowing, that they take our words up to the Creator so that they can hear us. Our ancestors can hear us. We pray to those cloud relatives to come and bring us abundance of water for the next 7 generations and beyond. We pray that we can come in right relationship with fire, and that fire continues to help us along the way, and that we stop continuing to see it as something to fear. We must continue to do these things that our ancestors laid out for thousands and thousands of years. If we were to look at a timeline, our ancestors go back thousands and thousands of years. This time of colonization or encroachment, as my brother Stan said, is a blip in that timeline. We can actually reverse the horrific things that human beings have done to this earth. We could actually see our salmon coming back up our rivers and our streams. We can do that together. And it starts with this symbol of taking down these bells, remembering our history, remembering that pain that is going to push us forward to change the things that we can change in this world right now. Thank you, relatives. Oh.
I always have to take a breath. Oh my goodness, that was awesome. Message of healing and hope. It was just so powerful. Thank you. Yes. Woo. I want to just mention for a moment, I live in and work on the Chochenyo people's land, right, in Hayward. And I just want to mention that they recently had a plan to put back the Mission Bell as they remodel a downtown park. And recently we got them to change their plan, so there is no more bell going in downtown Hayward. So I just thought I'd mention that. It's more good news. Our next speaker is Morning Star Gali, Achumawi Band of the Pit River Nation. Morning Star. While we're waiting for her to come up, I want to just give another applause to all the speakers we've had so far. Just absolutely amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And you can just come nice and...
Shimi Sunwi, greetings. It's really beautiful to be here with all of you today as part of this celebration, some of this honoring. So thank you to the Amamutsun for your tireless efforts. Thank you to Chairman Val Lopez. Anytime that through all of the different organizing efforts that we've called on Chairman Lopez, he's there, he's tireless. Thank you to his youth of his tribe. Thank you to the elders. Thank you to the parents. Thank you to all of the tribal members for your steadfast work to have this bell removed. We're here today in celebrating. We're one step closer. It's a step towards the removal of colonization, the removal of white supremacy, the removal of capitalism. That's what removing this bell signifies, and for all of them to be removed. To all of our tribal leaders, we are so grateful for you. To all of our elders, to Stan Rodriguez, who I've known since I was born, thank you for all of your dedication and hard work. To Mary Lopez Kefir, thank you. I can't begin to explain how much you mean to me and my family. There are so many of you. Chairman Louise Miranda that is here today, Chairwoman Louise Miranda that's here today. Thank you, Chairwoman, for your hard work and your efforts to always be here for all of us. So I just want to clarify that I'm not a tribal representative. I am a member of my tribe, the Achumawi Band of Pit River. But every day that I can promote our peoples in a positive way, that every day that I can work for justice for California Indian peoples, I am dedicated to that. I was raised by these elders and by our community members, by our relatives, to live our lives in a way to make things better for our children, to make it better. We're here at a time that every day we fight against the invisibility and erasure of our peoples, of California Native peoples, everything that they've attempted to do to us. And here we are standing today in the middle of Owasawas territory, removing the spell, joining together in celebration with all of you. And so the incarceration of our ancestors, we say land back, we say ancestors back, we say water back. And it's more than just a hashtag. It's that the incarceration of our ancestors is directly related to the incarceration of our salmon relatives, is directly related to the incarceration of our people still within institutions. That's what these missions represent, the institutionalization, the enslavement and incarceration of our Native peoples, the way that Native women were trafficked. I was driving down from Ukiah this morning and thinking a lot about the way that our Native peoples were forced marched down, the way they were held on Alcatraz Island, the way that they were forced to build these missions. And so we're here today in resistance. We're here in prayer. We're here every day with our presence and acknowledging all the hard work that our ancestors went through for us to be here today to fight that mission curriculum that our children are still being taught in the schools. Through those prayers, through those songs, through those acts of resistance, every day we are still here. We still exist. So I don't want to take any more time, but I just want to acknowledge our elders here, Wounded Knee Dio Campo. I want to acknowledge my sister here, Lisa Victoria Felix, Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing on the fights on behalf of our family. And just acknowledge all of you. Thank you for the sacrifices that you made, that your ancestors made, to be here today and to tell the truth in history, to have that platform of healing and justice for all of our peoples. And so this is a moment today to be in celebration and to be in recognition that we are one step forward, that there is visibility of our peoples, that we are telling the truth, that we're not afraid to be here and come together in that way. So toloquaitu.com, all my relations.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Canyon Sayers Roots, Indian Canyon Mutsun Band of Costanoan Ohlone. Yeah.
Be sure to take care of your face chonies. Make sure you wash them. I had to. Mishmin Tuhis, Conrakat Canyon, Coyote Woman, Sarah's Roots. Sorry, I could do that without the mic. I come from Indian Canyon Nation, aka Indian Canyon Mutsun Band of Costanoan Ohlone people. I identify as a Mutsun and California indigenous because I believe I have Chumash ancestry that I'm still reconnecting to. Two-spirit community member. Pronouns she, they, coyote. Daughter. Oh. Can I hear y'all say oh in 3, 2, 1? Oh. All right, good. I just wanted to hear that. Daughter of tribal chairwoman Anne Marie Sayers. I recognize my privilege being raised on the land of my ancestors' ancestors' ancestors, where both traditional and intertribal ceremonies transpire almost daily, where community members come to the land and pray and dance and sing and connect with the earth. I recognize how lucky I am and how much of a blessing that is. And I know right now my mother would want me to offer a song. And I want to offer this song in a good way. This is a Chumash grandmother's song that came to me differently than it was taught. And with this song is to honor our grandmothers, their grandmothers, and in all Mother Earth. For without them and without her, we would not be here. We share this time and space together for a reason. So it's with that humility, that gratitude, that present-mindedness that I offer this song in this space in a good way. I'm going to use my salik, aka clapper stick, and a rattle from Canoe Journey of intertribal culture sharing opportunities. And so this is Canyon's Chumash grandmother song. Moi moi kawana, moi moi ka, moi moi na, moi moi ka, moi moi na hey yo kanale, moi moi hey yo kanale, moi moi kawana, moi moi ka. Moi moi na ho, moi moi ko, moi moi na yo kanale, moi moi yo kanale, moi moi kawana, moi moi ko, moi moi na ho, moi moi ko, moi moi na. Moi moi hey ayo kunali, no son and oh the big oh. All right, so you go ahead. Coming from Indian Canyon. Indian Canyon is the only federally recognized Indian country between Sonoma and Santa Barbara along central coastal California. The missions have devastated these areas. And so many times, people who have been misinformed with this history have tried to dismiss indigenous perspectives by saying, well, you wouldn't have the technology you have, or the missions brought civilization. No, we have our own governing structures, societal rules and regulations and protocols, and respect and reciprocity and teachings and pedagogies of being one with the earth as well as responsible, because it is our sacred obligation. It is our responsibility to be good stewards of the earth. How are you being a good ancestor in training and caring about the next 7 generations? And so my mother, Anne Marie Sayers, her cancer is in remission. She is healing. However, she's in Indian Canyon right now. She would be here. And so she's like, you need to go, you need to represent. So I'm honored to be here as a cultural representative of Indian Canyon Nation. And I want to point out that it is because amazing beings like our tribal leaders, our elders, our mentors, and amazing allies. Because with our allies, community members who want to honor truth in history, standing in solidarity and respecting Indigenous protocol being acknowledging the land of whose land you are on, both the history and the peoples. Because if you are not on the land where your ancestors have always been from, you are a visitor. And so how are we being accountable to recognizing Indigenous protocol? I recognize my privilege because no one comes to our land and builds a bridge. No one comes to our land and builds a building and says, oh, by the way, do you have an issue with this? I recognize how lucky it is that I have this upbringing that my mother has afforded me, for people to come in a good way by offering gifts to the elders of our community, by speaking humbly and accountably, and engaging in a consensual interaction, and then finding out, is it possible to come back and continue that relationship building. And so I am honored to witness the communities coming together. And I am so humbled by the work of our these tribal leaders and our community members, as well as Kat and Greg Sealine, because they were there in solidarity with Indian Canyon as Indian Canyon had a prayer run from Mission San Juan Bautista into Indian Canyon for 4 years. And we're just a small little nonprofit. And so we had that. And I'm hoping that we'll have another run. So I hope you pay attention to our communities and the work of our communities, because today's a beautiful day, but the work is still not over. So I want to say thank you to everyone. And I'm going to employ a more contemporary action. I work with a lot of dance communities and other organizations where we engage in culture sharing and sharing of perspective. Now, I recently suffered a bulging disc and a torn meniscus in my knee, and I caught myself feeling very uncomfortable sitting. So for those of you who are able-bodied and want a moment to wiggle, I want to do a little workshop, a little tiny language sharing, language teaching workshop. So I encourage you those of you who are able-bodied, please stand up. Please stand up. The kids are going to love this. All right. So I've been working on language revitalization of the Mutsun language. Fun factoid, if you recognize this symbol, live long and prosper, the Vulcan language and the Klingon language was actually a language that was developed by Mark Okrand. He got his PhD in Mutsun language and learned from many California native languages. So where's the humility there? So in my language, in the Mutsun dialect, Amah means people. Can I hear you? And we're gonna do a body movement. You're gonna say, Amah. All right, now we're gonna jump a little bit. We're gonna say, pide, pide, pide. And then we go forward one step, tak. All right, Amah, pide, tak. All right, now I'm gonna say, awas. So awas, awas. Now we're gonna put it all together. Amah, pide, tak, awas. Amah, pide, tak, awas. Thank you for saying people of this land, because Amah is people, pide is land, tak is location of, awas all being from. You are people of this land, and by acknowledging Indigenous protocol, you are honoring and acknowledging the Indigenous people of this land. So Amah, pide, tak, awas.
It's like every speaker is giving us exactly what we need, right? Our next speaker is a music historian. His name is Bernard Gordillo Brockman. Bernard? There we go. Yay. And you can come nice and close to the mic.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. On Chairman Lopez's invitation, it is a privilege for me to stand here today within the territories of the Awaswas as a guest of the Amamutsun tribal band, the caretakers of this land. As a mestizo immigrant from Central America, I come to honor the Amamutsun's abiding efforts to remove the last of the El Camino Real bell markers in Santa Cruz. I will briefly talk about the history of mission bells in California and their present-day relevance, in fact, to my work as a music historian and as a grateful recipient of a grant from the University of California Critical Mission Studies. The Spanish have an old saying that recalls their long extinguished status as a colonial power. Spain had an empire on which the sun never set. Along these same lines, it could also be observed that Spain had an empire in which the sound of church bells never ceased. For centuries, as the sun swept slowly across the world, bringing light and warmth to all living things, the sound of bells regulated human activity. The Catholic Church controlled the ringing of bells to mark time for religious devotion and for work. The church bell represented the presence of a community around which people understood who they were in relation to the world. The sound of the church bell was synonymous with a sense of peace. This was certainly true for Spain inasmuch as the rest of Europe. But if we return to imagining the sun moving west across the globe, a different picture comes into focus when we arrive at the Spanish colonial settlements on the American continent. Here in California, Spanish colonization was a violent and noisy enterprise. The cannon, the musket, and the bell were deployed to establish and maintain missions, presidios, pueblos, and other settlements, while dispossessing native people of their lands and rupturing their ancient ways of being. In attempting to create a sense of peace, the mission bells engendered an ominous sensory experience, as their sight and sound accompanied the oppression and enslavement of native peoples. Yet this history faded from memory during the first decades of California's development as a state. In selecting the mission bell as their project emblem over a century ago, the El Camino Real Association of California was less concerned with the truth of mission history and more occupied with redefining the mission bell as a commercial symbol for the promotion of tourism via the state highway system. In the decades that followed, some communities across the state came to attach feelings of nostalgia to the El Camino Real bell marker, but its site only served to haunt and antagonize other communities. Far from the seemingly benign symbol replicated and installed across the state, the El Camino Real bell marker is an otherwise pernicious emblem of violence that symbolically reinvokes the horrors of Spanish colonialism. And no amount of rhetoric, action, erasure, or appropriation, regardless of their motivation, can purify the mission bell and its many representations of their violent origins in California. And in its absence, perhaps a sense of peace can finally be achieved through healing on native terms. Thank you.
Thank you. A quick announcement. Canyon actually has some pamphlets and coloring books. There she is standing up, holding them up. She said she was bad at self-promotion, bad at the capitalist part of her presentation. So I'm here to promote for her. Feel free to go check it out, grab a pamphlet, grab a coloring book. She's more than happy to share. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is Trina Higuera Coates from the Amamutsun Tribal Band. Hey, Trina. You can come up nice and close to that one.
Thank you, Veronica. And thank you, Karina Gold. Your words really touched my heart as I will be speaking for someone else today. And it was important to honor my ancestors as I speak these words. So thank you, and thank you to my cousin Marian Martinez for talking me through this. I will be speaking for Dr. Donna Schindler, and she is a psychiatrist for our tribe, the Amamutsun people. Donna has expressed it has been an honor to serve as a psychiatrist for the Amamutsun tribe for the last decade. Her work focuses on historical trauma or intergenerational trauma. Some elders simply call this the soul wound. Her work focuses on historical trauma. Some elders simply call this the soul wound. It has to do with how the unhealed traumas of the past cause a lasting effect that gets passed down from generation to generation, resulting in epidemic rates of domestic violence, depression, suicide, and substance abuse, illness, substance abuse and illness amongst indigenous people who have been colonized. In order for the soul wound to be healed, the truth must be told. About 13 years ago, Donna was sitting in an intergenerational group that she ran with her colleague, Joyce Gonzalez. By that time, she had been doing historical trauma work with Native Americans for about 10 years. Joyce leaned over to Donna, and out of the blue, she said to Donna, "You know, Indians were treated as slaves in the missions." Donna was shocked that she had never heard this before. Not long after that, Donna met Chairperson Lopez, and they started trying to get accurate information about what happened to Native Californians into the missions themselves. The late Bishop Francis Quinn was part of their team, and they wrote countless letters to 2 different popes, trying to present the need for the Catholic Church to heal for its devastating role as a perpetrator to the destruction of the California Indians who were enslaved in the missions. When Winipro Cerro was colonized, despite huge efforts to stop that by many of you present today, it seemed like nails were driven into a coffin, one that held the truth of what really happened at the missions. 100 years from now, the only part of mission history that would be remembered was that Sarah was a saint, and he must have done the right thing in starting the missions and in his treatment of the Indians. And because the truth wasn't told or remembered, the descendants of the mission Indians would still be suffering from their unhealed wounds. Today, the nails of the coffin holding the truth have been ripped off. Taking down this mission bell represents a huge step in the healing process that comes from telling the truth. And whenever the truth is told, there is hope that the soul wound will continue to heal. And if I might add to that, I just wanted to say, the mission bells did not erase us. Our family is still here. We are still here. Aho.
Thank you, Trina. Our next speaker is Reina Ramirez, Ho-Chunk American anthropologist, author, and professor of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Cruz.
Hello, everybody. I feel very grateful to be here today. It really does feel like a day of healing. I just wanted to tell a little story about when I first met Chairman Lopez. I started at UC Santa Cruz in 2000, and the director of the American Indian Resource Center, Dennis Tibbetts, went to go visit Chairman Lopez and the Amamutsun. And what came out of that was the Amamutsun speaker series that started in the early 2000s. And that's when I started meeting with Chairman Lopez and the Amamutsun people and working with UC Santa Cruz, inviting speakers that the Amamutsun wanted to come.
and talk while the UC Santa Cruz paid for these things. So my experience with Chairman Lopez is that he's always been about healing, communication, working together, and making change. And so most recently, I've been working very closely with him. I'm part of the Critical Mission Studies. It's from the UC Office of the President. And I've been working with Chairman Lopez and Judy Scott, who just retired in education, Daisy Martin, Charlie Brooks, also Carolyn Rodriguez and Alexei Sagona. We've been working together to develop curriculum from an Amamutsun perspective about the California missions. And it's been a really beautiful experience to work together in this way. And Judy Scott, she wrote an Amamutsun in collaboration children's story about the bells and the animals being upset and angry about the noise of the bells and how the animals organized together and remove the bells. The animal relations, you know, one little mouse was able to get a bell to come down. And so that's the telling of the stories. That is the way we can heal, and working together and communicating. And I just want to say, Chairman Lopez has just been this amazing leader and a beacon of hope and light for us to decolonize, and for us to end white supremacy, and for us to remember our ancestors. I'm Ho-Chunk and Ojibwe, and I'm following in the steps of my ancestors. I'm Thunder Clan. My Ho-Chunk name is Good Feather Woman, and it's something that I try to live up to. That, you know, this knowledge of working together with California and indigenous people. You know, Ho-Chunks are from Nebraska is where my reservation is, but also Wisconsin is our original homelands. And I come here as a guest on the lands of the Amamutsun. I'm an ally. I'm an accomplice. I'm here to work in collaboration and follow the leadership of the Amamutsun people and be humble and respectful. And this gives me hope seeing everybody here, because if we have that kind of way of looking at the world, of seeing the indigenous people of the land and working and being humble and being allies and accomplices, then we totally can get all the bells removed. So thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, and we'll do a slow transition here because I know we have still some distraction there, but I'm just checking in. Is Nane Alejandras around? We're not sure if they had to leave. They had to leave? Oh, okay. Okay. Should we go right on to our next speaker? Are we ready? Okay. All right, good. Tony Gonzalez, American Indian Movement West. Tony Gonzalez. Yeah. Woo. And thank you all. Thank you all. Well done. Is Tony Gonzalez around? Oh, okay. Great. Yay. Oh, yeah. Right over here and real close to the mic.
All my relations, and today indeed is a beautiful day, and I extend my hand in friendship. My knowing Valentin Lopez kind of goes back to about 2014, 2015 during the Junipero Serra, and worked with him on many occasions. I helped bring Valentin Lopez to the United Nations in New York to bring his story before the world community of what's going on with his people. I also want to thank some of the book authors in the area including those who have passed on, who was very catalytic in bringing more awareness and attention to the genocide of the Mission Indian peoples of California. Notably, and how I met Valentin was through Elias Castillo, and he wrote a real good book you should pick up. Another here locally, Elizabeth Haas has a book out. Benjamin Madley has another book, all emphasizing the genocide that occurred here. And coming here, I thought I was going to be late. My wife and I, we got stuck on Highway 17, so I wrote my speech out and sent it to Valentin, asking him to have somebody read it in case I'm not here. But I'm here. I want to stay on track, so if you allow me to just read this to you sincerely. How all my relations, I extend my hand in friendship. Waking up to the reality of racism sometimes may take a while in life to get woke living in North America. We see and learn in the streets and at ground level, depending from where we come from in our experiences. This removal today of a single bell is inspiring me and to us here, I'm sure. And because we have worked together in one way or another to take down another symbol of oppression, racism, cruelty, and genocide. These actions of removal is in line with the removal of statues, mascots, names of mountains, lakes and creeks, and streets, and protecting sacred sites of our ancestors, a land back movement. We are reclaiming our history. Where once we were angry and anxious for action to correct a wrong, still it is the youth among us that move positively with their involvement and leadership. We have a role to play in protecting these scenarios as elders. We now share our processes to decolonization, including our lives. Indeed, it is poetic justice moving forward. Collectively today, we are faced with many other challenges ahead in California. For example, the recall voting to take place on September 14. We must step up and defend the gains Native Americans have achieved with the current Governor Newsom administration. I say this because the opposition candidates has nothing to offer us, but instead will close these opportunities. Native vote in California matters. I'd like to ask everyone here today to prepare ourselves and the youth and turn out to vote no to the recall and protect the gains we have made to this point. The bell removal action signifies first steps to writing our own history in California. Thank you very much, all my relations. Hope.
Quick announcement, there was a phone found over on this, oh, there you go. Here you go, you wanna come grab it? Oh, good. All right, two more speakers. Shannon Rivers from the Acoma Otham tribe. Shannon Rivers. Yes? There we go. It's gonna be a little higher. Thank you, yeah, a little higher. You can come up nice and close.
Nephew, come on. Don't you love crazy white people? White people always trying to steal the show. I asked a few men to come up here, Wounded and my two nephews, to stand next to me. And I asked Wounded to bring the American Indian Movement flag. First, let me say thank you to the original people of this territory, the Awaswas, the Ohlone. Brother Val, thank you for always inviting me. I am not an American. I am not from this place you call America. I am Akamir Oatam. I come from the land of the river people in Arizona. How I am connected to this story, this bell removal, is by two individuals that came through our territory. One was Father Kino, and then years later, Junopera Sierra, who came through this territory. Both of them had a story to tell, and they tried to convert my people. They wanted us to be Christians. They wanted us to be Catholic. They wanted us to pray as they prayed. And we said, no, that is not our way. They have colonized, they have raped, they have destroyed ecosystems, they have made people vanish. Entire nations have been wiped out. My story is nothing new. And for all of us that are gathered here today, we all have an individual story. And if it wasn't for the leadership that we see today, the elders, the traditional people, the ceremonial people, we would all have been lost to this colonial way of teaching. I am Akamir Oatam. My people come from the Sonoran Desert, one of the most biodiverse systems and ecosystems in the deserts of Arizona, Mexico. And when we talk about our people, we don't recognize borders. That is a colonial concept. And all these people that tell us that we are from somewhere else, that our language is not welcome, our song is not welcome, I tell you that you're not welcome. For a long time, my people have struggled with these settlers, these colonizers. And I want to, before I move on, I want to thank the clergy that are here. It takes a very difficult position to hold when you talk about the truth. I work with men and women who are incarcerated, and some of them may never get out. They have been imprisoned, and they sit in very difficult situations in prison around the country, Arizona and California. Many of them are your relatives, and they are lost, and they are confused. And we have to try to teach them over and over. Colonization has removed every piece of who they are. But for many of them, there's this little fire left. There's this little fire that shines ever so slightly inside their hearts. And when the American Indian movement came through, like Wavoka and the Ghost Dance, we believed so much in our way that we were willing to die for it. Many of our people have died carrying this flag, carrying this staff. They told that they couldn't carry and pray that way. They couldn't carry this flag. And these young men that stand here next to me are the song carriers of the future. I'm living in their territory. I'm a settler to their territory. I come here and I'm a visitor to this territory. So all of you that are not Awaswas or Ohlone, remember that you are a settler, that you are a visitor here, and you must act as such. You must not colonize and continue to colonize. If you got money, sadly, this world of capitalism is destroying us. But if you got energy, you got time, you got land, return that land to the people. Don't be selfish like these Americans. I am not an American. I don't believe in that concept. I didn't grow up that way. My life has been one that has been fighting for the people, just like these men have done and will do. There are a couple of things before I leave and I turn it over to Wounded, and then we're going to march. And we're going to walk. And we're going to stop this traffic, and we're going to say, we are here. That we are here in support of this bell removal. And for the people that took that bell, it wasn't us. It wasn't the American Indian movement. I wanted to say it was me, but I was in a ceremony last night. But I want us to remember a few things. I want us to remember these words: the oppressor, the oppressed, murdered and missing indigenous women, ecological devastation, and the theft of our territories. And finally, I want you to remember this word, false generosity. That these items that are being removed, the bell, that's just a simple, small step. But for us, as Native people, we can't have these ideas of false generosity. You have to do more. You have to do a lot more. Removing a bell is easy. That's easy to do. Take down this mission. Take it down. That concept is foreign to many of you, and it's kind of scary, I would imagine. But can you imagine the native plants and the original people owning this land again and putting up a camp that they see is worthy? If you are Christian or Catholic and you open that Bible, if you are a Muslim, if you follow any of these religions, remember the first thing is compassion. And if you can't have, and if you don't have compassion, then maybe you're not a Christian. Maybe you are not a Catholic. Maybe you are not spiritual. It's easy to be religious, but it's hard to be spiritual. And for us as Native people, we see these movements of false generosity. Return the land to the people. Quit destroying us. Quit and teach the right story. It is not critical race theory. It is the truth. So for all of you that are here, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming. And for all the leadership that spoke earlier, I want to thank you. And for that crazy white man that scared some of you, I even want to thank him, because he shows us the mental capacity of America. And America has been raised itself and its children on lies. They constantly tell you lies to make you believe in patriotism, nationalism. And they constantly feed you this lie. This is stolen land. All of it. From Tierra del Fuego to Chickaloon, Alaska. It is stolen. And it's time that we give it back. But I don't think America can do that. They are too embedded in their lie. They are too comfortable with that lie. So stop with the false generosity. Make some real changes in this earth, on this earth, and in our lives, so that these young men can actually tell their story. And there are no more missing and murdered indigenous women. Stop the ecological devastation. Stop Line 3. Stop all these things that are happening across Indian country. I want to thank you on behalf of the Akamir Oatam and my traditional people of what you call Arizona, Arizona, the place of a lot of little streams. That's where I come from. And I want to thank you for having me here. And thank you all for being and coming. And thank you all for taking the time to listen. Go home with something. Go home and teach your circles. Teach your churches. And have them dismantle this system of white supremacy. Aho!
And our final speaker, Wounded Knee de Ocampo, elder from the Tuolumne Miwok tribe.
You know, I listened to a lot of people speak today, and it's a good day to see Earth people gather here to believe what the indigenous people believe in. We have a responsibility to ask you to support us in our struggle to protect many, many issues that we face today across this country. I am a lone walker. I walked across this country in 1978 because there was 11 bills pending in Congress. Them bills were called H.R. 9054, written by Cummings out of the state of Washington. It asked the President of the United States, Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale, and Congress to abrogate and terminate Native American treaties, water rights, religious rights, educational rights, fishing rights. And I met many, many people on that walk. And we still face them issues today. Water. Water is life. Water is sacred. Water is medicine. And the Creator gives it to us. We need it to survive. Everything on Mother Earth needs water. I need 2 volunteers to carry this sign. Come up here, you young ladies. I want the people to see these issues that we face today. That big banner back there needs to get somebody to carry it. These are 500-mile spiritual runners. There's a big banner back there. If somebody could come and bring it up here, please. And I listened to Karina speak today. She touched my heart and my spirit because I've met many, many spiritual leaders, many of them that sacrificed their time to fight and struggle to protect our land and sacred sites being desecrated by corporations. We face many, many issues today as Indian people, and we reach out to you to help us, to support us for our struggle to protect something that's very sacred to you, and that's Mother Earth. Murder indigenous women. I have met many indigenous women who are out there speaking, like Kayleen says, or the women went to, who's fighting to protect the salmon. Karina Gould. I met that lady many, many years, 25 years ago, to protect sacred sites. There are 13,000 of our remains locked up in UC Berkeley in cardboard boxes in gym lockers, along with their sacred objects and artifacts. So what are we going to do? They're being held hostage. Morning Star. We reach out to the young women because you give us life. I need 5 women to come up here. 5 women to come up here. I got a gift for you. Murder indigenous women. 5 women.
You got more than 5 pounds.
You got the whole crowd coming. All right. 5 women. Well, see me later. I might have to charge you $10 for. Okay? See me later. I need 5 warriors. Step forward. 5 men. As I've been called and talked about, where are the Indian warriors when we walk across this country? Where are you? We need you. The ancestors are crying. They are crying for you to come and fight to protect our sacred sites. See me after this and make a donation of $10. That's how we get around. I don't get paid for this. You know who's going to pay me? Something more powerful, and that's the Creator. Because they're waiting for me to come home. They're waiting for me. You know, I'm going to tell you a story so you understand the struggle of our people. Creator, help me. Pablo, please step forward. I'm going to tell you a story. Pablo is a 500-mile runner. We've been doing it for 43 years. Every issue that we ran every year was led by a man named John Malloy and his companion, Mia. We had non-Native Americans running 500 miles in prayer for you. I want you to remember this day. It could happen to you. When they come for you in the morning and take your civil rights, your human rights, and your voting rights. So what are you going to do? That guy that came through here, I was on many, many walks across this country. We had infiltrators that come and disrupt our walk across the United States because of them bills. I met many, many people on that walk. A lot of Native Americans and African American people don't know this. I met a man, heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. And he came to support us. But I'm going to tell you the story if you give me a song for a little man.
First of all, I want to thank Wounded Knee. He's been evacuated from his home, and he's still out here doing this work. And he's been doing this work for many, many years. Like he said, I've known him for many, many years. I've been on many walks. I've been on many runs with him, and he's still out here working for the people, all the people, no matter who you are. So I'd like to just share a couple of verses of this song that was given to the 500-mile run and the sacred run by the Cree people. When we were running on the border of Canada and the United States, the Cree people came out and asked us, well, what are you guys doing? And we said, we're messengers. The elders told us to come out and spread the messages of hope and cultural identity and all the positivity that Native people have. And they said, because whenever we're running, we don't advertise any other way other than our running. And a lot of people come up and ask, why are you running? And that's how we do it. We do it the old way because that's the way the ancestors and the old ones and the wisdom keepers told us to do it. And so we do that. And so they said, well, we want to give you this song. And this is their morning song. When you wake up in the morning and the sun comes out and you realize that's all you have, is you're alive for another day, to be able to walk through another day. And so get the most out of your day. Be the best person you could possibly be as you walk through that day. And so they gave us this song, and this is a sacred run. It's used on the sacred run, the 500-mile run, and a lot of the longest walks.
Thank you. Little Joe, when he gives you this song, listen to it. Because it could have been your ancestors. Many, many songs. Listen to the song. Oh, Mataka. Before I go, I know we're pushing for time. Let me explain about Little Joe. So you understand, we talked about our ancestors. My mother was taken from the Miwok Reservation and put in boarding schools. They cut her hair, beat her, and took the children to the woods. It's nothing new. They put a cardboard paper on her and told her to pick an American name. They jumped them up in suits like that, military suits, and marched them around. That's what they did to my mother and many, many Native American children. My heart goes out to the children that they found up in Canada. And I'm going to tell you something. The Pope refused to apologize to the indigenous people, and you know what he said? What did he say? It's a sad affair. Time out. See you later, and you have a nice walk and stay in prayer.
You get wounded going, he's going to go. You better. All right, I'm turning it over back to Val or to our sister here, and I want to thank everybody for coming. Let's get ready to march.
Thank you. Let's keep the applause going with love for all of our presenters today. It was an absolutely empowering, meaningful, important day. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for what you brought to this space. And we're going to transition now into the walk.